with the Wayne Borje Band as he makes any kind from Hawaii.
Let's do it again.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Junior Kekuewa Jr.
How's it, always? How you always? Always. Oh, man. All right. Okay. Hawaiians. Thank you. Mahalo. Aloha, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Junior Kekuewa Jr. Taking a look at the stats right now. We're going to start with the attitude of gratitude. And we're in our brand new studios, so we're going to sound like a little different as our engineer keeps tweaking the episodes, okay? My mic is something that they're working with. They're working with this stuff. Anyway, so we have 3 new countries, okay? Norway, France, and our brand new one, the Republic of Moldova. Okay, I don't know. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm sorry. But if you were to ask me, like, okay, Junior, point on the globe or the map, right? Because some people, flat earthers, right? If you were to point, right, like where is Moldova? I wouldn't be able to point. I'm sorry. It's just me. My education is good, but short. Anyway, so Apple Podcast, 42%. Thank you very much. Web browser, 17%. iHeartRadio, 16%. Spotify, 12%. It just kind of goes, from there. And then our audience, actually, we have a few 17-year-olds, 0 to 17-year-olds. Okay, so we keep it clean. We have 18 to 22-year-olds kind of popping up a little bit. And the majority of our audience is 23 to dead. So we get a couple of dead guys too. They tune back in. I mean, the spirituality podcast, I got some DMs on Instagram. They're like, "Oh, uncle, that's pretty heavy over there." Anyway, so and then our male audience is 64%, females 35%. That goes up and down, back and forth. Girls pop in. You know how girls are, right? They pop in, they pop out, and then they pop back in. So thank you, ladies, for being here. Now, on with the podcast. On today's podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about my first mentor. Okay, and he just passed away. He passed away last week, and it was not like a shock or like that kind of thing for us because he was unable to communicate for years. Okay, so for years, my uncle was, and he was my uncle, my mom's youngest brother, and for years he was unable to communicate, unable to talk. He had strokes, and for a long time he was unable to talk. So I was not able to, have another conversation with my uncle. And, I did a post on my social media about this. And one of the things I said was, if it was one thing that I could ask for, right? Because, I'm so spoiled. I spoil myself, but I mean, I have nobody to spoil me right now. My mom used to spoil me when I was young. But I've taken over. I've taken over. But the thing, and I'm not flexing or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's just me, right? And the thing about that is that when I want something, I write my affirmations, right? I write it, I speak it, I think it, and it manifests. Now, I'm talking about like anything. This is a law of attraction podcast, okay? And we try to inspire and motivate you into discovering the fact that you're doing it whether you think so or not. You're doing it whether you're aware of it or not. And when you start to make it work for you, that's when it really happens for you. That's when the magic happens for you. And that's when you start to feel it and you go, oh, wow. And you're aware of it and you go, oh, okay, now I'm going to do it on purpose, because I want this thing or I want that experience or I want that woman or, and not necessarily you can get that woman, but you can get that kind of woman, I will say it this way. I will say God will give you what you need. Okay. Because, let's say you want a blonde girlfriend or a blonde wife or whatever, right? That kind of thing. And you have a list. Okay. Now, we tried this live on the radio years ago, and I mentioned this on several podcasts already, but it does work. So you write down the kind of person you want, whatever, and then pops in, right? So I've been doing this, for years, and spoiling myself in this way that when I want something, I write it down, I focus on it, and then boom, it happens, right? So, um, and that's what I'm talking about by spoiling myself, because I just go after stuff. I make goals. And basically that's what it boils down to. It boils down to goals, Hawaiians. Okay. So you guys just make the goal and it'll happen. Okay. If you make the goal, your subconscious, which is responsible for your manifestation, will lead you to your goal. Okay. But anyway, so my uncle, was incapacitated for years. And I don't know if he recognized me on FaceTime or not. He was on another island being taken care of. And, I hardly got reactions. Nobody got reactions as far as I know. Right. And it was very limited and it was very painful. That part was really painful because my uncle was like the life of the party guy. I mean, you invite my uncle somewhere, and he will lighten up that place. He will put some energy into that room or wherever it is, right? And so he was that kind of guy. He was a character. He's kind of like me, but a little bit more boundaries, a little bit more like, okay, he's not gonna go there. I go everywhere. I don't care. I just go. That's me, right? So my uncle was different, and my uncle was my mentor, who at 13 took me on the side and said, "Bruh, you gotta understand some stuff." And he sat me down and he started, and it started with, this book on the Trilateral Commission, right? And he red pilled me. He goes, "Yeah, you smart. Read this book." And I read the book and I couldn't put it down. And then he gave me another thing and another thing. And pretty soon I was going down the rabbit hole. Okay. Now, this rabbit hole lasted for like years. This rabbit hole lasted for years and years. And so I studied like all kinds of stuff, right? And in my journey, in that journey, it included spiritual things, it included government things, it included all kinds of stuff, right? But these things, like everything is hidden right in front of you, okay? So if you know about architecture, if you know how to recognize these designs in architecture, I should say. So, like when you go to a church, right? Like I used to go to this cathedral. I had no idea that the flower of life was staring me right in the face as I walked through the front door. But it's up there. It's up on top of the facade when you walk into the church. I mean, that kind of stuff. See? So, so anyway, yeah, I started studying all this stuff, and then pretty soon, before you know it, things started, kind of like appearing right before my eyes, and I thought, wow, like this is really cool, and this is really cool because like my friends had no idea. The people I knew, like I couldn't even talk to them because like I was like, "Did you know that's a flower of life?" And they were like, "What is a flower of life? Like what are you talking about?" And then I would try to explain, and then halfway in I would give up because they had no idea. I mean, literally no idea, right? So it was kind of hard. I want to say it was very difficult to try to explain every little thing. And at that time, like in my 20s and stuff, when this was a new thing, my late teens, like it was very difficult to show people and to explain. And I didn't even have the knowledge that I have today. Like I was just starting, right? And so anyway, but my uncle was the one to guide me. So he took me to Bible studies. We went to Bible studies. We studied all this stuff. And then part of what he was, explaining to me, right, showed up on YouTube years later when YouTube was invented. So when YouTube was invented, right, I started seeing these people that previously I only had information from on pamphlets and stuff. And we would get in the old days, we would get the pamphlets. It would come to you in a Manila folder, and they would mail it to everybody. So these guys they had a network. Okay, my uncle and his friends, and they had a network. And then pretty soon, of course, Hawaiian sovereignty was also a part of that. But it was also American sovereignty. So I was studying American sovereignty, right? I was into legal procedure, okay? Because here's the thing about that, right? Real quick, just so you guys can get some seeds planted, right? So attorneys study color of law, judges study procedure. If you study procedural law, okay, you're going to understand some fundamental things that it doesn't matter how you color it, okay, because procedure is procedure. Okay, it's the fundamentals, it's the rock bottom underlying concrete foundation. Okay, so yeah, take that and run with it. But anyway, so so I go through all this stuff, right? And it's called the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. I mean, procedural law, right? And you get into all these things, and you study these cases, and whatever. So that happened, right? And then my uncle takes me and exposes me to all these things, right? So pretty soon when YouTube comes along, right, I get his foundational teachings, and it starts expanding exponentially. And when I say exponentially, it's because I was like a moth to a light bulb, right? So now here's YouTube, right? And then lectures, right? And I went through, I want to say hundreds of hours. I don't even know if maybe I went, I'm pretty sure I went over a couple thousand hours, but just hours and hours and hours. And I still do, right? Because everyone has their own perspective. And then there's people who specialize in things, right? So you have Greg Braden. Okay, go look that guy up. Greg Braden. Greg with two G's. Greg Braden. Go look him up. And then I mean, there's people like, I mean, I could go on and on. Jordan Maxwell. Okay, that he's the foundational guy you should start with, so that you understand everybody else. And then it kind of led into people like Bob Proctor and Tony Robbins, and those guys that are more law of attraction slash motivational slash inspirational. And then it kind of like fanned out. And so I ended up like watching these things that I have nowhere to like use this, right? Like, where am I going to use all this stuff? And I didn't know. And so here's the thing: you don't need to know. You just need to go on the journey. Whatever your journey is, whatever you enjoy, whatever you want to do. I mean, some people, they're enjoying the weirdest stuff. I mean, they're studying they're studying how worms migrate or whatever. That's just an example, always. But I'm just saying, right? So it doesn't matter what you're attracted to. If you're attracted to something, there's a reason you're attracted to it, is what I'm saying. Okay, so this was me, and I was going along my journey, and meanwhile, I'm coming back to my uncle, like for years and years and years, and telling him, yeah, uncle, and he wasn't computer savvy. He chose not to be. He chose to ignore a lot of it. And so I would come back to him and go, oh yeah, uncle, you remember that this, and you told me about that. And then I would add more to it, and he would go, oh man, I gotta see this. And I go, well, uncle, I can't send you any links because you're not, yeah, you're not partaking in the digital world, and that kind of happened like that. But I gotta tell you that if my uncle hadn't, made the decision, because he made the decision, not me. I had to do it. I had to go along because, oh yeah, it's my uncle, right? So I couldn't, in our family at least, we have this respect system. And when an elder is, counseling you or teaching you something or whatever, you pay attention, so I paid attention. Was the best attention I ever paid. And if it was one thing, I was getting to this earlier, if it's one thing that I could wish for, because I have everything else I wish for. But if it's that one thing I could wish for, is to have one more conversation with my uncle, one more lecture from my uncle, like on how to do stuff or whatever, it doesn't matter. But one more. Okay, so here's the takeaway for that, Hawaiians, for this part, because this is a life coaching podcast. Okay, and the takeaway is, don't wait for one more. Okay, don't wait. Just absorb everything you got now. Okay, you got that love right now. You got that girl, that guy, that whatever relationship, all of that. Okay, absorb that right now. It doesn't matter if it's don't wait until it goes bad, is what I'm saying, right? So absorb it now. Bask in that feeling of love now, because it doesn't last forever. Okay, we hope it lasts forever, right? But it chances are, sometimes it falls flat. Sometimes you're in a relationship in the beginning, it's like so super good, right? And then it kind of flatlines, and then you're kind of like, you don't really think about it. You're just kind of, partnering and moving forward in that way, or whatever, right? Because as a life coach, I get all kinds of people telling me all kinds of stuff and all kinds of stories, right? And you know what's really good about life coaching is that sometimes you start thinking you have problems. Sometimes you start thinking like yeah, I don't know, you're going through something, and then you start hearing about somebody else, right? With hashtag Me Too, that kind of thing. Okay, I'm not talking about that, the real hashtag Me Too kind of thing. I'm just saying, like you go, oh, it's not just me, right? It's him too, it's her too. It's that kind of thing. And so this is why the podcast is here. This is why I do this podcast, because I want to share my experiences so that if someone else out there, like I have ADHD, I talk about it all the time. I didn't talk about it years ago because there were people that were trying to discredit me with all kinds of stuff, and this happens when you start climbing the ladder. And so, but I gotta say, right, on the other side of the coin, if it wasn't for my haters, okay, these guys that were around me all the time that, pretended that they were there for good purposes and they were just trying to tear me down. If it wasn't for those guys, I wouldn't have gotten where I got. So I mean, so I was grateful for my haters. Sometimes when I was going through some stuff, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't. It actually was a little, I want to say, mentally damaging because that's what it does. It weighs on your head. Okay, but you have to know how to shake this stuff, and there's a process. Okay, and that's where we get into the four pillars of manifestation. Okay, that's where you get into affirmations, meditation, visualization, and vocalization. Okay, and those four things will pull you out, and that's what I had to go through. I had to go through that continuously because you got to purge. Okay, now let's get back on track to the knowledge and the red pill stuff, right? So my uncle red pills me, and now I start to see the world as it really is. And now I'm going, oh man, like the world becomes almost predictable. Okay. So and let me give you an example, right? Okay, we just had the Trump speech yesterday. Okay. And this is being taped for release on Monday, and this is on a Friday. I'm doing this on a Friday. On Monday, this will be released. So we had the Trump speech yesterday, right? This morning, all these circuits, all this huge provider, this huge internet provider goes out, right? And knocks out like a ton of stuff, right? Online. So a lot of stuff isn't working, right? I'm not going to mention the company's name, but yeah, a lot of stuff isn't working. And so if you're, privy to this knowledge, you know that this happened on purpose. If you're not privy to this knowledge, then you think like, oh wow, it's coincidence. But it just happens to also be Mercury retrograde. Okay, so you guys didn't know. If you know, you know. All right. But anyway, so communications, right? It affects that kind of stuff. And whether you subscribe to that belief or not, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, for those of you that do, it's Mercury, it's the onset, it's at the very beginning of Mercury retrograde. So that happened, right? And so you start to see through the conspiracies, because here's the thing about conspiracies, right? Um, we we went through years and years. My uncle and I, we went through years and years of study, years and years, and he felt betrayed because he was a Vietnam vet and he fought for our country, right? And when he was in Vietnam, he saw some stuff and learned some stuff about, our country, that he was like, whoa, like this is not good. And, I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to say what it was, but then it was a lot of stuff. So when he came back to the country, it was like, wow, he wanted to find out all this, conspiracy stuff. Because he was exposed to it in real life, in real time. And so this is the stuff that he was opening my eyes to at 13. And at 13, you kind of don't want to pay attention to this stuff. But because I had to sit there, because I respected my uncle and I had to sit there and listen, right? I took it all in. Okay, now humans. Here's what I'm going to tell you about human beings. You guys, and when I say you guys, I'm talking about the average person. Okay, so you guys walk around going, "Oh, my memory's bad. I have a bad memory." No, you don't. No, you don't, Hawaiians. You have a subconscious. Okay, so your subconscious consists of all your five senses. Okay, everything you taste, everything you smell, everything. Okay, everything you see, everything you hear. Okay, all of that. Now, this all comprises your subconscious. Now, what happens for manifestation with your subconscious? Well, you're subject to your environment. And what does that mean? Well, that means if you're in a place where you're seeing stuff that you're not supposed to, where you're hearing stuff you're not supposed to, whatever, you're going to become that. Okay. So if you're really stuck in life right now and you go like, okay, I need a way out. How do I get out of this stuff? You got to change your environment. Okay. You got to get away from the people that you're around, even if you love them. Okay. Even if you love them. I was around people I loved and I had to get out. I had to get away. I had to go, and I did. I mean, when I was 17, I knew this because my uncle was teaching me from 13. At 17, I told my mom, put me on a plane. I'm out of here. And she put me on the plane. I graduated from high school. I said, put me on a plane. I'm gone. And I was gone at 17. Okay. And I'm a boy. I don't advise this for, yeah. If you're 13 right now or 14, because we got some teenagers listening, okay, Uncle is not suggesting this for you, okay? All I'm saying is that's what I did. That's my experience. Do I regret it? No, of course not. I loved it. I would do it again, okay? Because it was an adventure. My early years from 17 to, I don't know, till my late 20s, it was very turbulent. It was very angry. It was very deliberate, you know, but it was for a reason, and it pushed me into like change, because you only go so low for so long before you either go all the way, okay, and I always explain this, right? So there's you work your way down, right? You work your way down, and there's I don't know, whatever, you get arrested, right? You go to cell block. Below that, there's prison. Below that, there's the coffin. Okay. Now, if you don't want coffin, you have a chance to work yourself up from wherever it is. It doesn't matter where you are. Okay. You could be getting arrested for disorderlies. You don't like that, then you go up from there. Okay. If you don't go that far down, maybe you just don't have money. Maybe you look around and your circumstances are bad and you want to change that. Then you can do that. Okay. But anyway, so along because my uncle was, doing this at 13 with me, by the time I was 17, I was like, no, I'm gone. And then, the rest, as they say, is history. Now, you have to know that you have a life path in you. And my uncle knew this. My uncle was the kindest guy in one respect. But he had his shortcomings, right? There were things about my uncle I didn't like, but I loved my uncle. That was my uncle. Okay. So we all have people that we love that we don't like certain things that they do, but we love them, right? You have friends that are totally screwed up, right, Hawaiians? But you love them. Okay. And this is that delicate fine line, right? Because on one hand they're giving you good information, on the other hand you see their flaws. Okay, especially family members, you see their flaws. I can't tell you how many people I have that come to me for life coaching that have questions because although they love these people, right? And sometimes it's somebody close to them, it's a friend, and they respect that person, they love that person, but they see that person being human. Okay, I ran into a lot of this in the entertainment world because when I got there, right, I discovered that I was watching a facade, like I was watching this thing that wasn't real when I got behind the scenes, right? And I saw a lot of my heroes do a lot of human stuff. And I was like, oh, ooh, ouch. It hurt. It hurt because you buy into the illusion. Okay. And that's what you do in society right now. That's what you're doing. Okay. And I can tell you, you're watching a movie. You're a part of the matrix. You're a part of uh, a puppet show. You're watching a puppet show, but that puppet show is designed expressly for you. okay, to watch, to watch. Now, when you know what's going on behind the scenes, or you're privy to this stuff, or you kind of know, like, okay, I am watching a puppet show, right? When you know those things, like, it kind of it kind of takes a lot. Um, I want to say you miss the facade, you miss the fantasy, because now there's very little. I want to say that the enjoyment that you have to experience, you have to create for yourself. Okay, because it's no longer about, like, oh, this is exciting, let's go see this. But then when you know what the back end of that is, right? It's not so exciting, right? So what does it really boil down to? Okay, it boils down to the things you love and people you love. Okay, and my uncle was good at that. My uncle was very good at things he loved and people he loved, and he really took care of the people he loved, and the people he loved knew that he loved them, and they reciprocated. Okay, funny thing about human beings, when they know you're sincere, when they know you care, when they know you love them, they will return that. Okay, they won't always return favors, or things like that, so you shouldn't play the favor game. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend giving something to someone because you think they will give you something back. That's bull crap. All of that, let that go. Okay, but here's the thing about my uncle, right? So he brings me up that way. By the time I'm in my late 20s, right, I'm still going through this turbulent life, and that was my own decision to do it that way, right? Because I was very stubborn, and I start, I just have this idea where I want to go, but the turbulence was real great. Like, I I was like a bull in a china shop trying to bull my way through things, right? And life is not like that. Okay. Um, but my uncle was very patient, very, very patient, right? And we go along the years and go along the years. And right about 2000, I think it was 2018, something like that, 2018, right? After all these years, because we started back in the 70s. Okay. And yeah, I'm dating myself over there. But yeah, we started in the 70s. Okay. Now it's 2019. Okay. And I've accomplished like a lot in my life by that time. And I happen to tell my uncle, like, because the topic came up about conspiracy and all this government stuff and all, and I said, Uncle, this whole thing. We were having a glass of wine at his place, at his house, and I said, Uncle, you know this whole thing that you've been teaching me all these years and all this stuff, like all of it, the government stuff, the yeah, everything's hidden in front of you, and now I see it. It all jumps out at me, and I see the symbolism, and I see I mean, everything. When you learn symbolism, it's amazing on wines. You see everything, okay, um, and everything pops out at you, right? And you can identify everything with everything else because you start making the connections. But if you don't see these things, there's no connections to make, and you just kind of go along your merry way and live, a conditioned life, right? And so my uncle, I tell him, like, Uncle, yeah, okay. So we spent years and years on all this stuff. None of these things will ever happen in my lifetime. And without missing a beat, my uncle looks up and goes, oh no, you wait. Okay. That was in 2018. In 2020, guess what happened? Yep, pandemic, right? Everything came out. And it didn't just come out for me. I didn't, because I saw things for what they were, and I started seeing things, and I go, okay, I made the connections right away, instantaneously as they went down. Okay. I also made the connections on 9/11, right? When 9/11 happened, I got a call from this girl that I was in love with at 4 o'clock in the morning because I used to talk to her about all this stuff, right? And yeah, we weren't together or anything like that, but I was, yeah, she was a person that I love and I still love. And she called me at 4 o'clock in the morning because the plane was, stuck in the building, or at least that was the story, right? And Yeah, that was the story. Okay, that was the story. But anyway, so that the building had a hole in it and it was on fire. Okay, and there was smoke coming out. Right, the whole World Trade Center thing. And so and I saw it on TV. Right, and as soon as I saw it, some words came out of my mouth. And but we're not going to repeat that on the podcast. But I knew exactly what it was. Okay, um, and she called. And she goes, "What do you think that is?" And I told her exactly what I thought that was. And she goes, "That's what I thought." And she had understood, because she'd been around me for like a couple of years, I think 2 or 3 years at that time. And she was one of my students. She was one of my, well, actually, she wasn't really one of my students. We were doing a recording project, but I was teaching her. So I was teaching her, I was teaching her voice and also, all this stuff, right? And so, but she got it, And anyway, so now 2020 happens. Okay, that was to the left over there. Now we're back. Okay, now 2020, right? That's my ADHD brain. But you guys are gonna get a lot of information. Hang with me. Hang with unks. Okay. So 2020 happens, right? And now all this stuff comes out, and it's not just. I want to say it's not just. It's not just the people that know who saw things. It's all these people who had time right now, right? Because they had the time. They had the time to stop and think and check it out on their phones and computers because they were at home. They were stuck at home. And I think this is the biggest mistake that the powers that be, if you want to, look at conspiracy for conspiracy's sake, if there were conspirators, right? The last thing they should have done was bring everything to a halt, because then people start thinking, because now they have time. Because here's the so I always talk about it as the mouse wheel. You're on the mouse wheel. What's the mouse wheel? Well, the mouse wheel is work Monday to Friday, Saturday soccer with the kids, Sunday church, back on the mouse wheel on Monday. Okay. They keep you busy. Okay. And then this is why taxes are so high. Okay. Yes, greed has something to do with it. It has a lot to do with it, but it's also to keep you busy so that you don't know what's going on behind the curtain, behind the scenes. Okay. In other words, wherever you are in the world, you have a state capital or a national capital or whatever, where you have a board of people that are governing your city, your state, your country. And they don't want you to find out every little thing they're doing. So, they're passing bills like 5 minutes before midnight on the closing day. I mean, stuff like that, right? So they're keeping you busy. Okay, now when you have to work like, 2 or 3 jobs just to survive, you don't have time to do research. You don't have time to stop and think. Okay, but this is what happened. People had time to think, and people started seeing all these conspiracies. Okay, and I'm not suggesting that there's a whole bunch, but there's a lot that your government doesn't tell you. Okay. And I'm not just talking about the United States government. I'm talking about every government. Okay. I'm talking about every person in power, all these power people. Okay. Now, do we need these people? Yeah, I think we do. But we need better checks and balances. We need people to be vetted, number one. Number two, they need guidelines. Guidelines need to be put in place, okay? And we're supposed to have them in our country. But, this is not always the case. And there are ways around these things. And, these things happen because people are human, okay? But more than that, right? When the pandemic happened, everybody had a chance to, stop and think. And people put two and two together very quickly. And now, like, I want to say there's more scrutiny out there, and there should be, right? There's more people going, hey, we know what's going on already. So, and the thing about technology, the good side, is that now we have cell phones. Now we have things to record other people, like, for good. And of course, sometimes it's not so good, right? It depends on what you use it for. So technology can be a good tool, and then it can be, something that works against you. But in this case, a lot of people started using their tech to video things, right? And so videos popped up about all kinds of stuff that people didn't know was going on. And, and this happened in conferences, but it also happened, down the street. It also happened with 5G technology. Everything started coming out. But this is the age, Hawaiians. This is the age of Aquarius. Now, in the age of, and I know, okay, don't get mad at me, church people, okay, because I'm totally down with God. Okay, this is God created everything. Okay, one of the things, one of the things was astrology and the stars and the heavens. Okay, so, and the heavens were created, on purpose. Okay. And people navigate with the heavens, with the stars. Okay. They're there for a reason. The story of Jesus, if you look up astrotheology, the story of Jesus is in the stars. Okay. So I'm going to say this now, the age of Aquarius, which is the age that we have moved into. Okay. And we have been in for a while, is the age of truth. Okay, it's the age where things get exposed, all these hidden things, all these things that were behind the curtain. Okay, the curtain is going to be lifted, the veil is going to be lifted. You're going to see truth like you've never seen it before. Some of it's going to be very uncomfortable for you people walking around with rose colored glasses. Okay, with those rose-colored glasses, like, oh, this is such a nice thing and fantasy and whatever. Okay, and some of you, the rose-colored glasses will actually serve you. Okay, and here's what I'm talking about. Okay, when this truth starts coming out, okay, you guys are going to start seeing truth in a way that you haven't really seen it before. Okay, but when this truth starts coming out, all right, you're going to start you're going to start understanding the fact that we have different timelines within the matrix. Okay. So, and this is part of your paradigm. This is part of this is going to be part of your perception. Okay, perception plays into it. Your paradigm plays into it. Your paradigm, what you believe based upon what you've been exposed to, and all of that. If you don't change your paradigm, if you don't change your beliefs based upon all the fairy tales that you've been told, okay, because you've been told a lot of fairy tales, okay. Now, if you don't change that, according, to fit the times, or like I want to use the term update yourself, right? But if you don't do that, and if you stick to that paradigm, that's where you're going to remain. You're going to remain on that timeline. Now, if you have upgraded, or, you're on a different frequency, or you're raising your vibration, okay, which is my mission in life, is to raise as many people as I can vibrationally. Okay. And I do it through their voice, and I do it all the time. And go check out the reviews. We get nothing less than 5 stars, because this works on every human being. Okay. Now, and I'm not flexing. I'm just saying this is what I do. This is for the rest of my life, I will be doing this. Okay. I've achieved everything for me. I've done all of that. And it was a good ride. It was a really good ride. Sometimes I get bored. I sit around here going, I really would like to stand in front of the orchestra again and sing and do all that stuff and do shows and, all of that. But this is my higher purpose, right? And I have to fulfill this mission. Okay. So, anyway, but when you start jumping timelines, it's because your vibration is raised, okay? And when your vibration raises, guess what? You don't even see the old guys you used to hang with. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You don't even experience the things you used to experience, okay? I mean, I'm glad I don't, because I remember days when there was one can of Vienna sausage, okay, and ice water in the ice box, and that's it. That was all there was. That was all there was. Okay. And I remember this Korean lady that owned this restaurant, and God bless her, she used to let me charge. She used to let me charge. And when I got my check, then I used to go pay her, right? And one day, like, she gave me this infinite wisdom, right? And to me at the time, it was infinite because I didn't think about it, right? But it was really simple. And she said, she goes, when you're at the very bottom, she goes, that's the good news. And I was like, what? I was like, how can this be good news, right? She looks at me and she goes, nowhere to go but up. And I was like, whoa, profound. Some Korean wisdom, right? And I was like, wow. And and it made sense. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah. So now this is the good news. I'm at the bottom, because I was working for $5 an hour kind of thing, right? And so that was then. Okay, now I'm not gonna flex and tell you how much I make, but yeah, make a lot more than that. But that's not the point. The point is you, Hawaiian. Okay, you listening to the podcast right now. Where are you at right now? Okay, and I'm not saying that in a condescending manner. I'm just saying evaluate where you are. Okay, if you want better, not everybody wants better, and that's okay. If you enjoy where you're at and everything is happening good for you and you're comfortable and everything's, whatever, then enjoy that. Be grateful for that. Thank God for that, whoever you thank. But be grateful for that. Okay, express gratitude for that, right? When my uncle died, it wasn't a sad feeling. When my uncle died, it was a happy feeling. It was like, yeah, lucky thing I had my uncle. Like praise God for my uncle. And I always praise God for my uncle. Always. When I got mature enough, and I want to say that started happening around 28. By the time I hit 30, I was mature enough to understand that and to be grateful for him and to be grateful for the doors that he opened. Because you see, Hawaiians, there's the physical and the spiritual. Okay. Now, the physical is the world that we're anchored in. That society that we're anchored in. The taxes, the job, the timelines, and whatever, the time constraints, 9 to 5 working, whatever, all that stuff. That's the physical. The spiritual is inside, whatever you call the energy in you. Okay. So that's why Jesus said the kingdom is within. Okay. Gautama Buddha said things a little different. One of the key things that he said was so there's Lao Tzu, there's Gautama Buddha. They all said this. They were talking about the same thing and how it affects you, right? And Gautama Buddha said the man who knows or who acknowledges that this life that we're in right now is an illusion escapes suffering. Okay, think about that one. That's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy. Okay, the other one is Lao Tzu said something really, really good about anger. He said, muddy water left alone, right, clears. Muddy water left still clears. So if you don't keep stirring up things, right? If you don't keep, if you don't keep the drama going, it will flatline and it will clear and it will go away. Okay. So yeah, just a couple things that I learned along the way. But I also had to put those things into practice, and that's where my uncle came in because I always got reminders. Okay, so it wasn't just, from the time I was 13 to 28. When things started working, he was there, And did we scrap? Yeah, we scrapped. We scrapped like family scraps. We had arguments. A couple times it kind of got physical. I remember there was one time that he took his index finger and he was like using it as a pointer, but he was like tapping my chest with it, right? That kind of thing. Like, so sometimes it would get a little physical, but nothing bad, nothing really, really bad kind of thing, And if it wasn't for my uncle, I wouldn't be where I am. I don't know where that is, right? But enjoying my life the way I'm enjoying it now, like that wouldn't happen. I would be having a miserable life because I would be buying into all these things around me, thinking that was reality, when in essence, it's only the physical reality. Okay, so in the Christian Bible, they say blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is the only sin that you can't be forgiven for. Okay, now how you going to commit blasphemy against the Holy Spirit? Oh, if you don't acknowledge it. hmm You have to acknowledge that energy within you as coming from a higher source. Okay, because if you don't acknowledge that this energy that's within you is just, you know, it's just an energy, right? So when you die, you're dead. Okay, and we know we have modern medicine has proved these things. Modern science has proved these things. Okay, we have machines that measure energy leaving the body in large amounts just right away when somebody passes, because the physical stays behind. And this is why the focus on sin and the physical in religion, right? Because religion, only the body can sin, but what's in your body cannot sin. Okay, what's in your body can intend, but it can't sin. Okay, so your spirit, your the spiritual side of you cannot commit any sins. That's the physical side. Okay, and that's the side that Satan is the king of, because it's the adversary. It's the other side. There's the physical and then the spiritual. Okay, there's a yin and a yang. And so yeah, your physical is responsible for the sinning part. And yeah, you can intend it from the energy within. You can intend that. And you can be as evil as you want or as good as you want or whatever. Yeah, all of that. You have that power. Okay, you've been blessed with the opportunity to experience either one. But if you are blessed to experience the opportunity, and let's say you go negative for a while, okay, because I did, I've been there, done that, okay, and that was called my 20s, and I got tired of it, and I didn't want it to keep going. I wanted to change it. I wanted to change it. I wanted change. I had to change it in a major way, Hawaiians. Like I can't even tell you. Okay. And it's all subconscious mind. That's all it is. It's your subconscious. And once, so they say, change your mind, change your life. And once I did that with my uncle's help, because my uncle was the one that go, no, no, this gonna work. You keep going. This gonna work. And all those lectures I had to sit through from him. And he went on this journey. He went on this personal journey of his, and he did all this personal development, right? All the back in the day there was a thing called the EST seminars, and he did that. Right. But he would go, no, 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 this gonna work, but you gotta stick to it a little while. You gotta keep doing it. So his technique with me, right, which is what I recommend for anybody teaching a young person. Okay. And all you young people listening, right? It's called one day at a time. It really is. Okay. One day at a time. And it went like this. And this was a goal that my uncle passed down to me, right? The way he did it. Because I wouldn't listen anyway else, I don't think. I really don't think so. Okay, because I thought when you're in your 20s, you think you know everything, right? And I thought I did. And so it was like this. It's like, hey, look, tomorrow, because I used to work with my uncle, right? He had this truck washing business. So we used to wash these big rigs and stuff. He used to let me drive the trucks. It was pretty cool. I could drive like these 18 wheelers, like across the parking lot kind of thing. And that was it. But anyway, and that's why I respect the truck drivers. I respect these guys. I mean, wow, that's a talent to do that. It's a skill set. And it's also a talent. Some guys are very talented at it. Some guys are just skilled at it. But man, it takes skill. So anyway, so we were doing these truck washing things, right? We were doing these gigs. And one day he goes, hey, look, can you just like for one day come work without grumbling, without any negativity, without drama, without, bitching? Can you sorry, I don't normally use words like that, but and that's what he said, right? And he goes, can you just for just one day? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can do one day. So the next day when I came, right, I was like monitoring myself. I was holding back on it. So I wanted to rip one, I wanted to, that son of a gun, so and so. Yeah, I wanted to rip one, right? But no, I was cool. I was like, okay, all right. At the end of the day, my uncle came up to me and goes, bro, you was really good today. Today was a good day. You think you can do that tomorrow? I was like, I had to think, right? I had to think, and I was like, yeah, oh yeah, I can do this tomorrow. That was pretty good. It wasn't that bad, and so I did it tomorrow. At the end of that day, he's like, wait, think you can do this again tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I can do it tomorrow. Yeah. But here's what happened always, right? So those few days, right, turned into a week. And those weeks turned into months. And those months turned into years. And pretty soon, see, the subconscious learns in repetition. Okay, so it's all about acquiring new habits. So the new habit was, okay, I'm just going to focus on positivity and I'm going to, try to enjoy this new lifestyle, being positive, right? and I'm gonna let go of that negativity. And so I got in the habit of this new thing called positivity, right? And guess what? The subconscious is very receptive. Your subconscious goes, oh, that's what we're doing? Okay. And it'll just do it. Okay. And then you start thinking about it in your sleep. You start dreaming stuff like that. Okay. Your subconscious just takes it and runs with it. And then it just keeps going because that's your new paradigm. That's your new program. Okay. But my uncle had to sneak it in that way. He had to sneak them in that way always. Okay. But that it worked. It really, really worked because then years later, right, I was fully aware and fully conscious that this was one day at a time. And pretty soon, months later, I looked back and I go, wow, yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute and everything has gotten better. Everything in my life gets better. Everything gets better in your life, Hawaiians. Your situations get better, your romances get better, like all of that. Everything gets better. Okay, you start attracting things because you're not pushing it away anymore. Okay, and everything starts to come in your life, right? So when I was in my 30s, that was when when it started escalate, it started building, and right at 40, that's when the magic, so to speak, happened. Right at 40, the big door opened, and boom, it was the first big opportunity. There's been several. There's been several, but the first one, the one that gave me that shot, right, that opened the door for everything else. That first one, that happened at 40. So, and it doesn't matter. It could happen at 20. It could happen at 25 for you. It could happen at 30 for you. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter when it happens. You just need to know, it's going to happen, right? And so I had to talk a little bit about my uncle. I had to talk a little bit. He was a Vietnam vet. The things I can tell you about him, he was a Vietnam vet. I never saw my uncle cheat. I never saw him cheat anyone. I never saw, I never saw him like cheat on a parking ticket or try to get a parking ticket fixed or, like he had friends. He had all kinds of friends. Uh, don't get me started talking about his friends. I mean, some of his friends were pretty heavy guys. But I never saw him like do somebody dirty. Let's put it that way. I never saw him do bad things like to anybody, right? And I never saw him steal anything. I never saw him take anything that wasn't his. hmm I can't say that for some other adults that I knew. I just can't say it. Because we all do things like, you're working at your job, right? And your job is in office and you can bring home some pens or whatever. You can bring home some labels, what, right? Okay, so I saw adults do that in my life, right? People that were close to me. I can't say that about my uncle. He never did. I never saw him do anything like that. So in my eyes, right, like when my uncle would tell me stuff like, oh, you got to be honest, or you got to whatever, that kind of thing, like I took it to heart because I saw him as the example because he did it, right. He told the line and he wasn't dishonest or anything like that. So I was like, okay, well, makes sense. See, and this is where you can follow someone because everything is congruent. Okay, congruency is very important. If you don't believe me, ask a woman. Okay, because you have to be congruent with a woman to get on her good side or for her to trust you. Okay, so the other day I was talking, I was talking to this girl the other day, and I said I touch neck first date, and she's like touch neck, and I'm like yeah. See, yeah, there's okay. Every woman knows this, right? Because if a woman exposes her neck to you, okay, if she allows you to touch her neck, and you don't just reach out and touch her neck, I'm talking about whatever. There's a thing, right? The way you do it, but when you do it and you accomplish it, it's because she trusts you. Okay, if she doesn't trust you, you're not gonna get close to her neck anyway. But that was something we were talking about, right? If you're congruent and you make all her checks in the checklist, then yeah, can. And you'd be surprised. But that was my uncle. He set the bar, and he really made it possible for me to be who I am today. And it was all done one day at a time. Oh, sorry, Hawaiians. I gotta go. Love my uncle. Yep. Okay. Hey, we gotta say mahalo to our sponsors, Voice Master Family of Service Companies, and also Darren Chinen's music at afmhawaiimusic.com. Check it out. Until next time, I'm Junior going, hey, you guys, if you want to change your life, you gotta change your mind. Okay? You want to change your mind, do it one day at a time. In honor of my uncle. Okay, there you go, Hawaiians. See you guys later. Mahalo and aloha.